Now, I got to say, you Republicans is in trouble. We're breaking something down that looks simple on the surface, but actually is not. This is about the Louisiana State House race. And at first glance, people are looking at it like saying the Democrats flipped the Trump 12 plus district, or they're going to say this means nothing, right? So it's going to be one or the other. But when you actually slow down and listen to what's being said in this stream from Voting Trend, he's covering the Louisiana special election. When you actually sit down and listen to what's being said, there are three really important things that are happening here. Number one, the way the political narratives get built in real time. Number two, the difference between voter registration and actual voting behavior. And number three, how history gets framed, especially this idea of the so-called big switch. We're going to play the key moments. I'll stop it. We'll unpack it. And then we'll decide what this actually means. So let's get busy.
The Secretary of State already has results. Okay, here we go. Whoa, I don't know how many people are going to be voting in this, but yeah, we already have results. So the Democrat has 55.6% to, okay, so see, Chastity Veray Martinez, 55.6% to Brad Daiggs, 44.4%. So this is very similar to what we saw in Texas, right? So we saw basically the flip of what the result was of the presidential race. I think it was like 60-40 for Donald Trump in that state Senate District 9 in Texas. Now we're seeing an absolute flip here.
Okay. This is where the narrative is going to start. Democrats is up 55-44. And immediately the framing starts forming around what this means. Now, here's what matters. This district went for Trump at the presidential level. So the easy headline is Democrats win Trump district. But here's the problem. Presidential results and local results are not the same thing. And he actually says something important later, right? This was already a Democratic held seat. That changes everything. If a Democrat previously held that seat and was run unopposed, then this isn't some shocking flip. It may just be a reversion to the district's normal local behavior. This is what people miss all the time. National media loves to say R+6 district or Trump plus 12 district, like that's the only number that matters. But local politics is personal. It's relationships. It's turnout. It's candidate quality. And if you don't compare it to the last race for the exact seat, you're not actually analyzing them. You're just spinning. So that's the first big takeaway. Headlines are built before the context is understood. So that's the context. All right, so let's go on to the second moment.
We'll see what happens with that. Oh, good. And it'll automatically refresh for us as well. So we'll keep an eye on this, see what happens. Let's see what voter stats are. Okay, so they do register by party in this district. So thank you, Secretary of State of Louisiana. Thank you very, very much. This. Okay, if you work for a Secretary of State or an elections official, this is the kind of stuff we need. I can click on the results and I can see what the voter registration is in that district right now. I don't have to go dig through Excel files and all that. Thank you very much. So we can already see that this is a district that has 51.5% registered Democrats, 27.1% registered Republicans, and 21.4% registered other party, independents, whatever. Okay, if we look at the race breakup, we see that 42.2% of it is Black. Okay, so what does this tell us from when Donald Trump ran? And it's unfortunate.
Wait a minute. So this is one of the parts that actually matters. He pulls up voter registration and we see something critical, right? 51% registered Democrats, 27% registered Republican, over 40% Black voters. That changes the entire framing. If the district has a Democratic registration majority, then a Democratic win is not so shocking. But here's where it gets interesting. He also points out something that most people don't talk about: local versus federal voting behavior. In Louisiana, like in parts of Kentucky and West Virginia, you still have voters who will vote Democratic locally and Republican federally. That means voter registration doesn't automatically equal presidential loyalty. And this is important. People think voters are rigid party robots. They are not. You have voters who split their ballots. You have people who vote on personality. You have people who vote based on culture nationally, but familiarity locally. But when someone says this proves Democrats are surging, that might be true, but it might also just prove this district behaves differently at different levels of government. This is why real analysis is slower than Twitter analysis. All right. Now we get to the third moment, and this is where it turns into something better and bigger.
Okay, so the great switch story, from what I understand, is the argument is that
the big switch explanation is Southern strategy versus party identity. That's the big switch explanation. Let's be clear.
The South went from being Democratic to Republican because the Republican Party had the Southern strategy. They tried to appease to angry white voters when it came to the Civil Rights Law of 64, the Voting Rights Act of 65, and all that, and got white voters over to their side because of that. Okay. Now, obviously,
this is where people get that KKK was belonging to the Democrats and blah, 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 and all that other goofy stuff. So just keep that in mind.
George Wallace vote shows that maybe that's the case. But that's the argument. The Republicans are saying that's a lie. The Republicans are saying, and by the way, let's make this really clear. Partisanship and ideology are not the same thing. Okay. And the Republicans / conservative want to conflate those. And we are coming to the point of conflation as well, because we are having a partisan sorting. But
this is where the conversation get bigger. Okay. He starts talking about the big switch, the idea that the South went from Democrat to Republican after civil rights. And here's what he does that's actually smart. He says both sides oversimplified it. One side says the Republicans used the Southern strategy and flipped racist voters. The other side says Democrats were the party of the KKK 150 years ago, so nothing changed. But history isn't that clean. Parties evolve, coalitions shift, voters move slowly over decades. It wasn't an overnight flip. It wasn't one election. It wasn't one speech. And here's the deeper point. When people argue about the big switch, they usually argue emotionally, not with data. He even says you need to look at how voters think, not just party labels. That's important because modern voters don't vote based on what happened in 1865. They vote based on what they think today's parties represent. So when we look at this Louisiana race and we see a district that votes Republican federally, but Democratic locally, what we're actually seeing is the party identity and voter identity are still complicated. And that's something both parties struggle to admit. So here's what we learned tonight about this. First, early headlines don't equal final analysis about what happened. Second, voter registration tells parts of the story, but not all of it. And third, party history and voter behavior are more complicated than the slogans we hear online. This Louisiana race might mean something. It might mean nothing. But what it definitely shows is this: voters are not as predictable as activists want them to be. And if you want to win elections, you have to understand that complexity, not ignore it. That's the breakdown. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content. This is HQ.